The government of Canada owes a duty to its citizenry. That duty is multifaceted, but one important aspect is that there's a duty to adhere to the Constitution. The Constitution does not end at Canada's borders. That's clear from the case law. How far beyond the borders it extends, one can debate. But I think that the duty to conform to the Constitution, insofar as it's within its power, exists for people who are imprisoned in the United States charged with capital offenses. And if that's the case, then the government must do what it can, even if it's only submissions, to see that cruel and unusual treatment or punishment is not imposed on Canadians anywhere. Doesn't mean you've got control. Clearly where they have control, they must conform to the Constitution. But here where they have an opportunity to make submissions that may be very helpful, the government has that constitutional duty and they're ignoring it. Beyond that, capital punishment is something that we find abhorrent, along with most of the rest of the world. A tiny handful of barbaric states still impose it. Sadly, the Americans, who are our principal extradition partners, are part of that group. But quite simply, there is an entire absence of evidence that capital punishment protects anyone. And indeed, there is study after study showing that it does not. And that in fact, very often, we impose capital punishment on people who are very likely never to offend again in any way. In Canada, the picture of a typical murder is a drunken brawl between friends, an angry, usually drunk argument with lovers, a fight that went too far. There are different patterns of capital offenses in other countries, but a good chunk of everyone's murder cases are like that. Those cases are never going to repeat. And to kill someone is a permanent statement which ends their life. It involves also an assumption. The assumption is people do not change. You can mark their worth by the worst act they've ever committed and trust that they will never change from that. I'm not sure any sane society can subsist taking that view of its own citizens. Certainly if we judge governments by that standard, we wouldn't have a government very long.